Hi, I'm Molette Green. Welcome to another program in our ongoing series, Vocal Point. Today, we're honoring a group of people who are largely invisible yet serve and sacrifice for our nation every day. They are our military children. They carry the burden of being separated from their parents, not knowing when or if their loved ones will return, and often their parents come home with some sort of mental or physical injury that can affect the entire family. How do military children prepare for and deal with deployment, and what resources are available to help military families cope and stay strong? Joining us today, Barbara Thompson, Director of the Office of Family Policy, Children and Youth. She oversees child development and youth services for the Department of Defense. Tammy Moore is the Armed Forces representative for the American Red Cross. She is a military wife and has been nationally recognized for her work with military personnel and their families. Paulette Hubbard, Program Manager for the Marine Corps Family Advocacy Program, a 20-year veteran of the Marine Corps. Paulette is now working on a PhD in social work at Howard University. And Anissa Davis, a Navy wife with two school-aged children whose husband is currently serving at the Naval Air Station in Patuxent River, Maryland. Today on Vocal Point, kids serve too. The effects of deployment on children of military families. Since September 11th, 2001, the United States has deployed over 2 million military personnel to Iraq and Afghanistan alone. 42% of them leave behind spouses and children. In fact, there are almost 2 million children with parents in the military. Over 200,000 of them have a parent currently deployed, and more than 700,000 have already lived through one or more deployments. Military children deal with high amounts of traumatic transitions, like frequently moving, absent parents due to deployments, and surviving parents' post-deployment challenges, like physical injuries, post-traumatic stress disorder, and death. There are some 20 military installations in this area, so D.C., Maryland, and Virginia have their fair share of military children. Today, we look at ways to support the children who make sacrifices for our country alongside their parents. And we want to thank all of you for joining us today for this discussion. I want to start by giving an overall scene setter, what life is like for our military children. And Paulette, I want to go to you first because you were raising children at a time when you and your husband were both serving. Tell us what life is like for children.
For children, it's frequent moves. Research shows that military children, change schools 6 to 9 times throughout, from kindergarten through 12th grade. So there's a lot of detachment and reattachment, friends, difficulty. Sometimes some children adjust very well with the moves, and then other times they don't adjust so well. So they have to make new friends, having new teachers, new schools, a new environment, and constantly making that adjustment as the parents are reassigned.
Yeah. And for both mommy and daddy. Serving, and we thank you for your service, but we have to think about your children who had to say goodbye too many times for a child.
Fortunately for us, at the time, I'm divorced now, but at the time, fortunately for us, we never had to deploy or be away from the kids at the same time. But what the military requires is that single parents or dual active duty parents have to have a family care plan in place. And that plan entails who would take care of the children in the event that someone, and we both had family support. Family support is a huge, really important to have, especially when you have dual active duty.
Yeah. And so for you guys, Anissa and Tammy, being the military wives who are at home, the challenges are still great, even though there are support services in place. For children, there's a lot to deal with. They can't intellectualize like the big guys can, like the adults can, and it's tough on them.
Right. There is a lot that goes with that. Fortunately, with the American Red Cross, whose founding mission is one of providing care and comfort to members of our nation's armed forces, their families, and veterans, we have a community education program that we take to military families and communities all around the country that talks to them about the Red Cross services that they can expect before the deployment even occurs. It's called Get to Know Us Before You Need Us, and that's exactly what it does. It allows the military family to get to know the Red Cross before they actually need our service.
That's really good. Anissa, talk about what your children went through during the whole process of deployment and returning home for your husband. What did the kids go through?
Well, during my first deployment, my husband's first deployment, I was pregnant, so I gave birth while he was deployed. And for the second child, she was born on September 11th.
September 11th, 2001.
And he deployed 7 days later. So I was at home raising a newborn and a 2-year-old.
Traumatic.
So it's during the separation, they don't get to know who Daddy is. So he's a complete stranger when they come home. And as they became older, it was just that separation, and they have to get to know him all over again. They don't understand that Daddy's gone, and we don't know how long he'll be gone, and we don't know when he's coming home, but it's just reattaching to him and getting to know him all over again.
How long were the stretches of deployment?
It depends. Normally 6 months. We had 1 year where he was gone a total of 9 months. So it varied each year.
And to the adults, it doesn't seem, Barbara, like, oh, that's not that long to have to go it alone for the spouse who's at home or for the child who's at home. But the services that you provide, your office provides, are vital because, you know, I was saying before we started the program, you know, even taking a little vacation, the kids are like, when are we getting there? Time is not the same for a child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the issue of deployment really, it's so different for every family.
Yeah.
It's so different based on the gender of the child, the age of the child, the temperament of the child, and the family dynamics. So one program is not going to be a cookie cutter and really serves the majority of the families. In your case, Anissa, you know, we learned a lot about separation as a result of 9/11 and the long-term separations for our babies and toddlers. And we actually have a program called Coming Together Around Military Families that we partnered with 0 to 3, which is a national organization that looks at infants and toddlers and their families. And we recognize that those separations, that attachment is critical at that time in a child's life.
Yeah.
And so we tried to think about how we could help the parents stay connected to the child and the child connected to the parent, even though they were pre-verbal.
Yeah.
How do we do this? Because it's really important. So as you say, as they reconnect after 18 months or 9 months, the dad or the mom is not a stranger.
Right, definitely. And during that time away, the parent who's at home with the children, you feel like a single parent, and the kid is wondering, when's daddy or mommy coming home? What sort of things manifested in the household, specifically for your children?
Well,
What concerned you that made you definitely seek out those services?
knowing that they don't know when Dad's coming home,
Or
and
if. Yeah.
and keeping them occupied, keeping them focused on, you know, because we can't say in the Navy, you can't say where he's going, you know, across the board in the military, you can't say where they're going, and so keeping them focused on other things, not so much on how long Daddy's going to be gone and that he's actually not here. So we had to seek out different opportunities to keep them occupied. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that my children had a voice. Sometimes they don't, you know, we don't ask the kids how they feel, but it's finding services that allow them to have a voice and that they can express themselves. They can express the anger. They can express the separation anxiety. So
I know a lot of attention is given, of course, to the service member who is away and who's dealing with serving his or her country, and then we focus on the spouse who's at home, the parent who's at home, and then I think that society really doesn't get it a lot, that the kids really go through a lot more than we think about. And we really need to zero in, Paulette, on making sure the kids get everything that they need. And just having a parent at home isn't always enough.
Right, and for the Marine Corps, we have Marine Corps family programs. We have pre and post deployment programs where they teach age-appropriate children, classes for children 5 and through adult.
Yeah.
They teach them age-appropriate, how to handle pre-deployment, what to expect.
So the kids
So the
actually
kids
get
actually
that one-on-one.
piece,
Okay.
starting at age 5. And they get that piece, what to expect. Mommy or daddy's going away. Here are the things to expect when mommy and daddy comes back. When we talk about reintegrating into the family, they teach them about these are the things that are expect, how the family roles may change, how things may adjust, and how to I don't want to say the easiest way to reintegrate that military member that's been absent from the family for however long that deployment
And you
was
really
in effect.
want to empower children.
Yeah.
It's all
Absolutely.
about instilling a sense of confidence in them by building on their strengths. And so one way we do that at the American Red Cross is we have a course which is the only nationally developed course designed specifically for military families experiencing a deployment. We talk about, like you said, the changing family dynamic. You know, we also draw on the richness of the experience of the military child. They are global citizens, and they have experiences that their civilian counterparts don't. They're exceptionally mature, they're bright, they're resilient children, and we'd like to build on that by, you know, putting them in leadership positions in their communities. We invite them into the Red Cross chapter. We have a peer-to-peer network. You know, when we know a child or a family is going to make a permanent change of station into a new community, we reach out to that family and invite their children into the Red Cross. Right now we have volunteer programs all around the country at military treatment facilities where military children from, I believe, like 9th grade to senior level in high school are performing service learning activities in military treatment facilities. They're working with our wounded warriors, you know, in military treatment facilities all around the country.
That's fantastic.
And it is. It's richly rewarding for both, you know, the wounded warriors and for the children. They're completing their community service requirements for school, and it's just the richness of the experience that they're getting on both ends.
Yeah,
So-
and Anissa, when you sought out the services, you found them so beneficial that you became passionate about becoming a leader in this area. Talk about that and the Ronald Reagan Rugrats.
Yes.
Tell us, we want to know.
My husband was serving on the USS Ronald Reagan, which is an aircraft carrier in San Diego. And one of the things that I remember him saying to me was, you can either sit at home and wallow in the fact that I'm deploying, or you can become involved. And I never realized I would be that involved, but I went to my first meeting and ended up being the president of the Family Readiness Group. And if you know anything about aircraft carriers, there are 5,000 sailors, which means it's that many families that I'm
That's a lot.
servicing. And so you're overseeing a board and taking care of families, giving them the information that they needed. And so the Ronald Reagan Rugrats, one of the things that we talked about was services are so much focused on spouses. But we wanted to give the children a voice. So what we created was the Ronald Reagan Rugrats. And that gave them an opportunity to become involved with other kids who are just like them.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that you're not the only one. And they were able to come together and do activities that connected them to the ship. We brought them together and did a banner where they did their handprints and wrote messages to their parents and deployed parents, and we sent it to the ship, and it was put up in the mess decks where you can go and you can find your child's name and the special messages that were written. So we wanted to make sure that they had a connection to their deployed sailors.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful opportunity to give our children, who, you know, I deem them kind of the forgotten sufferers, because we want to focus on them, but we forget sometimes. So it gave them a voice. It gave them an opportunity to express themselves.
Yeah, that's really cool because, you know, when on the news you see the service member coming back home and they have that little clip of the families embracing and hugging and crying, and we think, the outside world, we think, oh, it's happily ever after. But there's so much that goes on to reconnecting, reuniting those families, and making sure those children feel secure with daddy or mommy coming back home. It's so important, Barbara.
I would like to add, though, while the focus is on military children, and that's my passion the last 35 years of my professional life, if the strongest predictor of their success is the parent at home.
Yeah.
We have to take care of the parent
The
at
whole
home.
family.
But really, while the service member is deployed, we really need to, what I would like to say, shore up the spouse at home, or the family member who's taking care of that child, because when they're strong, that child is going to be strong.
Absolutely. That's really a key point there. That's a key point there. Making sure that the spouse at home feels supported and empowered to be able to do this.
Or whoever the caregiver might be.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because in many cases, Paulette, the caregiver,
Maybe a sister or brother,
Yeah.
aunt, uncle, mother.
that
Yeah,
was the
absolutely.
situation at times with you guys.
Yes, and it's so important to. I like what Anicia said about giving the kids a voice. It was so important for me anyway with my boys. My oldest experienced it the most, to give him the opportunity that when he was angry, let him express that and let him talk about being upset about daddy being gone, or vice versa, trying to, when I make contact, mommy being gone, and maybe not being able to tell why, but that you're going away, and helping them to talk about those things really, I think, made a difference.
How
for
did
them.
his anger manifest?
Different ways, age appropriate. When he was younger, it was just acting out in school sometimes, getting in trouble, out of character type behavior. Sometimes there were outbursts, sometimes just disobedience at things. So that's how you know things that are out of character for your child. That's how you know when they're feeling some separation anxiety or having some difficulty with the parent being gone.
This is a wonderful discussion. I look forward to learning more as well as taking audience questions. But first up, let's watch this.
I believe that Kids Serve too. There are a lot of issues and challenges that our military students face: anxiety, depression, abandonment, role reversal, fear that the parent may not come home. They're defiant, don't want to follow rules when there's just that one parent there. The fact that they have to maintain certain grades. Some of them, especially high school students, some of our high school students that have to come into a school their senior year have the difficulty of making sure that they meet the Maryland State graduation requirements, and so working with them and to ensure that they get what they need, and the fact that they're just such resilient young individuals that work really hard and are concerned and very passionate about their parents and what they do. I just applaud them. When it gets to the point that at Meade High School, we as counselors feel that the students need a lot more than just the services that we can provide as a normal high school counselor, we do work very closely with the Fort Meade Behavioral Health Clinic, as well as Walter Reed Army Medical Center and the Military Child Education Coalition. Those organizations provide psychologists and psychiatrists that come into our schools and meet with the children and their families. And we also have a group called Student to Student, which is we train our students to work with our families that are coming from the military, get acclimated to our building. And this year we're actually planning on having a meet and greet quarterly so that those new military students that are coming in, we can make sure that they have gotten used to the building, they've made some connections and so forth.
And I would imagine that the caregiver has to make sure that the teacher understands
Absolutely.
that
It is so
these
important.
behavioral challenges are related to
Absolutely.
missing dad or mom.
It is so important.
And I made sure that I stayed in close contact. We were very fortunate that many of our stations that our children went to a military school per se. So the teachers understood, but we did have an opportunity not to live near the base. And so when our oldest son was in school, I made sure that I stayed in constant contact with his teacher and said, okay, Daddy is leaving. Don't know how long he's going to be gone, but just know this is what you need to expect from him.
Yeah.
And we worked closely with his guidance counselor and his teacher to make sure that they understood that you don't just categorize him because he's acting out, because he's not turning in homework. He may be talking back. He may just not want to do anything that day. So just so they understood that there are some things going on.
And all of the services that you all head up and work with, you know, provide that therapy that you can't just sit a kid in a room with a therapist and say, talk about your problems like they do with adults. Kids need a different way to release and have that voice, Tammy.
Right, and what we do with our coping with deployments modules is that we focus not so much on counseling. It's less about counseling and more about skill building. And so that's how you build resiliency in children, and that's how you build confidence in children.
Yeah. Sesame Street,
Yes.
important part of the whole plan here.
Well, without a doubt, the Department of Defense cannot take care of families alone.
Yeah.
We need partners in the community to step up and help us where we have gaps in our expertise. And Sesame Workshop was absolutely stellar in bringing forth a way to communicate with our very youngest children about the issues of separation due to deployment and due to change, whether it's a physical or a mental illness. And then lastly, the third trilogy of their series is on grief.
Parent is deployed.
Listen, son, do you know what today is?
Thursday?
Well, yes, it is Thursday, but it's also that day we talked about. Remember, the day I have to go?
Oh, yeah. My daddy.
And what's the beauty of these DVDs and Elmo and Rosita, it's not just for military children, it's all children. And that's really important that America recognizes that military children are America's children.
Yeah.
And while they have the same issues that everybody faces, they have another layer, which is service to their country. And with resources like that, it gives parents and it gives the important adults in children's lives the opportunity to start talking about those feelings and start channeling them in the right direction. So we're very proud to associate ourselves with Sesame Workshop.
I think that's a great way of helping children and working with the whole
Absolutely.
family. I want to talk about and get your thoughts on another interesting point in, you know, society looks at, you know, serving the country, service members as heroes. I'm sure you've heard this, that, you know, thank you for your service, you are one of America's heroes. But when children are dealing with a parent who's away or a parent who may have perished as a result of fighting for his or her country, you got to kind of tread lightly on that when the child is still dealing with that raw emotion. Can you share a little bit about that whole thought process?
Well, fortunately for us, we've never had to deal with
Thank
a child losing a parent. But I know that you do have service members. I've been around other family members you either had are injured, because I do work on the base, and I do work with military personnel. So I know that, you know, families so often seek out. For the Navy, it's Fleet and Family Support Services. There are so many programs that they have dealing with the wounded warriors and things of that nature. And my family, we're teaching our children about giving back, so we have kind of partner, we volunteer with Operation Homefront. So we know a little bit about working with the wounded warriors.
Yeah. And, you know, it's tough to see a parent return missing a limb or dealing with an invisible injury that is a big deal in terms of recovery and moving on with life. These programs help the children to better understand that. Talk about specifics that you can think of in terms of what actually you've seen.
In
help?
terms of helping the children?
Yeah.
Just like the Navy, I think all the branches of service, Marine Corps Community Services has a variety of resources available to assist the family and the children in any stage or phase of what may be occurring at that time in their life and are surrounded around military lifestyle. So there are, depending on, we have prevention and education resources where we teach them about communication, parenting skills. We have anger management and stress management, age-appropriate programs for the military children. We also have clinical services, if it rises to the occasion, providing clinical services to the family and or the children to help them deal with grief and loss and those issues around when the service members come back and may be injured, and we encourage the family counseling as opposed to just individuals. So it just really depends on, so it's a whole gamut of services, and it depends on the needs of the family, which is what I like about the program.
Yeah.
It's not a cookie cutter effect, it's a variety, and we tailor it to the need of what the family needs.
The Red Cross also provides a reconnection workshop, which speaks specifically to the reintegration part of the deployment cycle, and the components address such issues as establishing communication, reestablishing intimacy between the parents, working through anger, and things like that. So there's a child's module as well that teaches the parents or the caregivers how to work with the children during the reintegration process. And those the courses are offered in Red Cross chapters all around the country. They're in group sessions or individual sessions, and they're free of charge.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of research being done now on how to support children of the severely injured, so that, again, that the parent knows how he or she can continue to parent, whether it's hugging with your legs versus if you don't have arms. I mean, there are ways to really, through occupational therapy, but I think what's important is that we're learning because of the wonders in medical science. Now we have service members returning with some very horrific injuries, and so how do you help them to continue to be that mom or that dad in that child's life, and that child sees him as his or her dad or his or her mom. And I can remember one story. I did worked on programs for the severely injured for a couple of years as a special assignment, and I can remember one mom saying that she was so sad that she would not be able to braid her daughter's hair any longer because she no longer had arms. And so how do you then, what can you do? How can you still be a mom and be important in that child's life?
That's really tough because you take that for granted as a mom of a daughter, being able to have that special moment with your child.
Absolutely.
And that's the sad reality for a lot of people, a lot of people. What has the impact been from the support shown by the Obama administration, specifically Michelle Obama, First Lady, and Vice President Joe Biden's wife, Dr. Jill Biden? They have really been outspoken about supporting military families.
As a grateful nation, it is our sacred responsibility to stand by our military children just as they and their families stand by us. From improving the schools where they learn, to strengthening the communities where they live, to supporting the parents and guardians who are raising them. President Obama is committed to ensuring that this administration does everything it can to support our military children.
But government can only do so much. That is why we are encouraging our fellow Americans to make time and find ways to recognize and support the military children in their community. As the mother of a National Guardsman, I have seen firsthand the difference that a small act of kindness can make. It can be as simple as reaching out to the new military family in your neighborhood or connecting with one of the many organizations dedicated to supporting our service members and their families. There's a role for each and every one of us in supporting military children.
Let's mark the month of the military child this year by dedicating ourselves to honoring and supporting these brave children all year long.
Has that really, have you seen a palpable change in how military families, specifically children, get support? I know that there is a lot more that we can do, and we're doing more. But has that made any difference?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like the synergy of the forces, because right now there's never been the emphasis on military families as with this administration. And their Joining Forces campaign is trying to build that public awareness of the needs of military families so that they're seen as integral members of that community, and how does the community give back to the service members and their families. And two of the issues that touch directly on children is what they're doing with teacher education and social work, and where they actually have programs now where teachers who are going through college to learn to be a teacher recognize the needs of a military child.
That's really
with
good.
special curriculum, so that they're just integrated into that school environment. And then the same thing with schools of social work, that they recognize the needs of military families, so that they're prepared as they enter the community to take care of them.
I think that's great. Yeah.
And if nothing else, it certainly has raised the consciousness of the community. Shows like this, you know, I don't know when in the past we would have ever seen a conversation around the needs of military children. So thank you for doing this and bringing this to the community.
In my 20 plus years, I won't say how old I am, but my 20 plus years of being in uniform and then out of uniform, this is probably prime time that this is the best social services that I've seen and resources being offered to families that I've seen in my time around and in and around the military. So
Yeah, I think
it's
we have to
definitely made a difference.
Yeah, I think we have to also consciously talk about this, as you said. We have to, because there are so many people, far too many people in society who are still not even aware of our servicemen and women who are overseas, whether we're, you know, in a wartime action or not. I mean, we forget. We go along about our daily lives, and we're not tuned in that many people are still serving. They're still in Iraq. You know, we're drawing down in Afghanistan, but far after that, we will still have people serving
And I think that's
and away from their children.
And I think that's so important, because deployments aren't the only time that military members may be separated from their children for extended period of time. There's temporary duty assignments that they may have to be away from the home. There's times that they may have to do unaccompanied tours, and those are tours where they can't take the family. So deployments aren't the only time that the military member may be separated. And then all of those stressors come into play.
I know we talked about that as well, Anissa, about what deployment means, or time away from the family. It's not always you're serving in Iraq or Afghanistan, but you're away.
You're away. Exactly, you're away, and that's the key. You're away, and so the issues are the same in terms of separation and what that brings with being separated from that parent.
How are your children today? I wanted to ask, how are your children doing?
My children, I think, adjusted well. And when I mentioned earlier about it really depends on it, and Barbara also mentioned the temperament of the child.
Yes.
The personality of the child. My oldest child despised moving. He hated it. You know, it was always, I always had to give him more attention in terms of making sure that he reconnected and made friends and adjusted. And my younger one saw it as an adventure. You know, it was always, when's the next adventure? So it just really depends on, you really have to know your children and be able to identify what needs and what they need.
And sometimes those moves were overseas for the children?
No, not for the children.
They never were overseas?
Just my oldest one was younger when but probably at an age he wouldn't, because it was preschool.
Okay.
So he wouldn't remember being overseas. So we were in the States, but still the moves were still significant.
How are your children doing?
Our children are doing wonderful now, because Daddy is end of his career and no more deployments, and our youngest two are moving into the middle school and high school arena. So it's very difficult. It's easier when they're younger. They can make friends at any time. But as they get older, it's a lot more difficult for them to make friends. And it was very hard for them to leave one coast and move to another, and then you make friends, and then you're moving to another coast. So it was very hard for them, but now Daddy's home. Our son is moving into a teenage arena, and so it's good to have Daddy.
That's a whole new ball game.
Whole new ball
Thank
game.
goodness Daddy's home.
So, you know, Mommy can only take him so far, and so it's wonderful to have him home, and he's integrated back into the family, and so he has his part to play, and so they're doing great now, and we now have a grandchild, so it's wonderful to not have to worry about him deploying again and being home for that grandchild.
Do the younger children still have that little fear in the background that Daddy could get that call?
I don't think that they realize that Daddy can always get a call. And you know, sometimes you want to keep them children as long as you can.
Yes.
You don't want to put that fear into him, but it's just good knowing that he's home. You know, when they wake up, I just remember my daughter getting up one morning and she came out of her room and she said, "I want my daddy." And then she went back and got in the bed. So it's nice to know when she gets up in the morning, he is there. So.
And the most important thing about this conversation is that these resources, the many resources that are out there, are so important to raising secure children, Tammy.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, the Red Cross is offering babysitting courses to children age 11 and up. 30% off, so call your Red Cross chapter. You know, and these kids are, again, we're talking about empowering children, right? So they can take care of themselves at home. If they're, left alone at home, they have life-saving skills at their fingertips. We are utilizing technology. We have an app. These kids are so smart with everything digital. They can download the app and they have the instructions right there. So, we have a full menu of ways to engage our young people and to empower them.
That's really good. Because I think also we have to be careful with making sure that our children stay children, as you said, because you don't want your child to think that he or she is in charge when daddy or mommy is away, and that they have that responsibility of taking care of the family.
That is very true, and especially for our older kids, teens, where they're strapped with taking the parents' place. And so there's a fine line with having them have that experience and having the responsibility and learning new skills where it's not past their developmental capacity. And the other issue, I think, especially for younger children, is the parent is still the parent, and you don't let things slide because the other parent is deployed. You have to keep them on that developmental trajectory so that they don't slip off their developmental path.
I want you guys to talk individually about some of the services that really, just specifics on the services that really helped or are helping our kids who are serving too. Anissa, you start with that.
Well, for me, it's the family readiness groups.
Yes.
I can't speak enough about the family readiness groups, because you have those spouses who get to come together, and then you have the children who get to come together, and you're all in this together, whether you're enlisted or you're officer. Your spouse is deployed. We're all in it together. Operation Homefront. Armed Forces YMCA is one that we used in California that had so many programs for our children. And then again, those resources to help the parents reconnect with those children. Those are the ones that really stood out for me that we just really became involved in.
Yeah, there are so many standout programs. I just want you to kind of highlight a couple of them.
Right, the coping with deployments. You have heard me mention this over and over during this program, but I just want to reiterate that it's the only nationally developed program developed specifically for military families experiencing a deployment. You can access the modules online at your convenience, or you can go into a chapter and have it delivered in a classroom environment. So I really want to impress upon our audience, our listening audience, our viewing audience, to access that particular resource.
Yeah. DOD.
I would say, and I really like to thank our community partners, Red Cross and Operation Homefront, are excellent examples of how the community has stood up to help our military families. But two of the sponsored DOD programs are Military OneSource, and that is 24/7 online and telephonic communication with licensed clinicians. And so you can not only access the downloadable materials, but you can also make an appointment to either have financial counseling or face-to-face, telephonic, or online, what we call non-medical counseling, so to help with those life skills.
Yeah.
You're feeling lonely, you need somebody to talk to, your child, you're having some communication problems as a parent to a teenager. You can talk to a licensed clinician and they will help you work through those issues. And the other one is our military life counselor program, and that's where we've actually embedded licensed clinicians doing non-medical counseling in our public schools, our on-installation schools, as well as our child development programs, our youth programs, and our family centers. So again, there are licensed clinicians there for people to go to and talk to to talk about those life issues that they need support with.
And Paulette, parenting in general is the hardest job in the world. But, for military children and families, we've got to make sure we give them what they need.
We have several programs, a family readiness program, of course. We also have the new parent support program where we service Marine Corps services families with children ages 0 to 5. So they they go into the home. These are our home visitors. They're licensed clinical social workers, registered nurses, or nurse practitioners. They go into the homes. They teach parents about prenatal if the children are unborn, teach them about prenatal, parenting skills, nurturing skills, age-appropriate discipline, just the whole gamut of things that would need to be addressed, and teach them about the developmental stages of children. We also have the Children, Youth, and Teen program where we assist, make sure that children of age-appropriate have age-appropriate activities and skill-building possibilities in order to be able to just adjust to moving and all the challenges that come with a military lifestyle.
Yeah.
We also have several other programs that across the gamut, the school liaison program that helps to address educational challenges, and those liaisons work with in the community and with the school districts to make sure that the children's educational needs are being addressed. So again, they're just a gamut. Our EFMP program, our Exceptional Family Member program, is for service members who have immediate family members that may have disability or educational challenges, or medical or educational challenges, and so they ensure that there's a continuum of care when those families relocate, that they know what their resources are. They make sure that the duty stations that they're being relocated to also are available, that making sure that they have those resources available to them to address those specific needs. So
yeah, and I asked you all to run down some of the programs because people outside of the military world may not know what exists and may have perhaps a friend who is in need and may not be taking advantage of those opportunities to get help for their families.
Pretty much, and that's why I'm so excited about these programs, because all of them, they didn't always used to be available.
Right.
We have child care services, we have child care CDCs on installations, and for those that aren't close to installation, we assist with the subsidy fees. So again, there's a gamut of resources for the military family and children that they can access, and the services are free.
And this is across the DoD.
Right.
It's across all
DoD.
services, and it's really a part of this family readiness system.
Yes.
Right. And I think one of the things we're very proud of is, and again, over the last 10 years, that it's really become a very robust system of care. But again, our families, 2/3 of them live in the communities. So it is a community effort to take care of military families.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is why we're having this discussion today. Now we want to turn our attention to the studio audience for any questions or comments they may have. So we want you to give your name and your organization affiliation and then ask your question or give your comment.
Good evening, ladies. My name is Andrew Chisholm Jr. Currently, I'm at the University of Wilmington. I'm a senior. Actually, I just retired from the U.S. Air Force about 2 years ago. And I had 23 years in the service.
Congratulations.
My main concern, first I want to thank y'all for bringing up the subject. I think this subject of post-traumatic stress and integrating with the family is a hot topic, because I don't think other people understand what the service members go through as well as who they left behind.
You bring up a great point because, and that brings us into talking about the mental health services that are so vital and free for the whole entire family to be able to take advantage of. Tammy, do you want to start?
Well, I do want to say, if you find yourself in experiencing an extreme emotional crisis, first you're going to contact your medical authorities. That's the first advice I would give to you. And then if you need to contact the Red Cross to relay an emergency communication to a family member, a loved one, who can then further assist you in getting the help that you need.
Yeah.
Well, the Office of Family Policy really we're on the prevention side, not the intervention side. So we do programs which are non-medical counseling. So, for example, Military One Source and the Military Family Life Counselors are licensed clinicians, but they are not there as therapists, are to diagnose or to give out medications, but they are aware of all of the indicators and they can refer to a higher level of support. I think it's really important. There are resources. The National Telehealth and Teletechnology Center, it's called T2, has some wonderful free downloadable apps for these kinds of things. They have a mood tracker. They have something called afterdeployment.org, which is for not only the service member, but also for the helping professional. So they know all of the resources that are available. And I think it's a really good point that we have to educate our larger community that we do have our service members reintegrating into society, and they have experienced war and they have experienced combat. And so how do we build that awareness and know what resources are available so that we in turn can support them.
And the children who have parents who are suffering have to get the help to understand that, you know, this is a medical issue and it has to be dealt with. It's not that easy to just come back home and go back to normal. What is normal? You have a new normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm most proud about, the Marine Corps has stood up what we call our de-stress line. And what the de-stress line is a 24/7 hotline that any military member can call. They're staffed by prior service members, so they're trained to, they're not medical counselors, they're trained to help de-escalate, but they also have licensed clinical social workers there to oversight so that in case they need to do immediate referral. One of the awesome things, if I can tell this quick story about one of our success stories, is that we had a service member call in and he was ready to commit suicide. He was on the side of the road. The awesome thing about it was that the counselor was able to keep him on the phone. We were able to track him by GPS and get the authorities there on the side of the road where this service member was and be able to get him assistance. So that's the type of service that the de-stress line is providing. We also provide clinical counseling. We have licensed independent practitioners, so LCSWs, LMFTs, LPCs that provide clinical services for those that are beyond the need of just preventive care.
Sure. Let's go back to the audience now. Hi there, what's your name and your affiliation and your question or comment?
My name is Cheryl Kravitz. I'm with the American Red Cross, and thank you all. I'm struck that there is a lot that the community who are not members of the military or their families can do to help. Tammy, who is a member of the Red Cross, is a member of something called Tiffany Circle, which is a group of women who do a number of projects for the men and women of the military and their families. And I'm really interested to hear what we as non-military people in the community can do to help children and military families.
Great question. Who wants to start?
Excellent question.
Tammy?
Well, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I am a member of a giving society called the Tiffany Circle within the Red Cross. It's a philanthropic organization. For me, it's service to the armed forces. It may be international support for, or disaster or health and safety services, but overall, the American Red Cross is a humanitarian organization, and that's what we want to underscore. And so, through these financial gifts, we are able to provide free training. The courses that I talked so much about during this segment, the coping with deployments, the financial contributions help us to pay these licensed mental health professionals to deliver these services free of charge to our military family members.
I would just like to add another resource. The Military Family Research Institute at Purdue recently published a series of how to help, and it's geared for a particular profession. So, like, for example, financial counselors or pediatricians. And so I would suggest you go to Google Military Family Resource Institute and find those different professions and how they can help. And it actually lists additional resources so that they are aware of what the needs are of the military families.
I think that's such a great question because there are so many people watching who want to help and want to learn, ways in which they can help. And this also continues to keep people engaged that our children, our military families are very special and we've got to take care of them. Let's go back to the audience. Hi there, what's your name and what organization are you affiliated with?
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm actually a student at Howard University. And my question is more so for the parents on the panel. I know you talked briefly about the troubles that you've had, or the difficulties, I guess I'll say, parenting children in this situation. What was maybe your greatest difficulty? And if you had to talk to yourself back then, what was something that you would probably say to yourself? Or what resources would you look for that you didn't know about now?
Anissa, you want to take that?
The greatest difficulty, I think, with I can only speak to the Navy, is that when Dad leaves, when the service member leaves, you can't just pick up the phone and call them, and they just can't pick up the phone and call you. So, and it may be 30 days before you even hear from your sailor. So that was the biggest difficulty, is getting your children to understand that you just can't pick up the phone and call Dad. You can't hear his voice right away. It may be some time before you hear from him. I don't know that there's anything that I would do differently. I think I may have sought out services faster than I did before. I thought that I could do it on my own. My first pregnancy, I just thought I didn't need the military. I would be okay until he returned, and it became very difficult, especially after having a child and having postpartum depression. You need those services. You need a helping hand. So if I had to do anything differently, maybe seeking out the help that I needed.
How big of a challenge is that, do you think, getting the family to take advantage of the resources that are out there and the many new ones that are coming on board?
I think part of it is making them aware what services are available. I think that's part of the biggest challenge, is letting them know what's available and how to access those services.
Yeah.
And I find that once they know what's available, they're usually ready to access
and I think that's a characteristic of our military families, that they think they're strong and they can do it on their own.
Absolutely.
And it's not that they're not. There's certain times, certain circumstances that it is okay. It is okay to ask for help.
Yeah, that's very, very key. Very key.
Thank you all for what you're doing. I am a resource coordinator for an organization called Veterans for Christ. It's a local organization, and our focus is providing information specifically concerning post-traumatic stress and depression through the churches and the schools, colleges. And we are always open to invitations to do such. We have volunteers who provide those services. Thank you.
The faith community also being very important.
The faith community is very important to our service members and their families. And again, it's one of those organizations that provide services without stigma. And so I think that's the key.
That stigma is tough, especially for our kids. The little ones who may feel a certain amount of embarrassment when they go out with a parent who may have lost a limb, because society has to do, I think, a better job of lifting that service member up. And I think we're doing better, but we can do better, right? We can do better.
Always room for improvement.
Yeah. Always room for improvement. Okay. And this has been a great discussion. I love it. I want to turn our attention now on some final thoughts from each of you. What you want people to leave here or to take away from this conversation that we're having today, because we want to impact people within the military community and outside of the military community. Do you want to start first, Paula?
Sure. I think it's already been said here that it's okay to ask for help, and to ask for help when you need it, actually before you need it. Get to know what resources are available before the crisis happens. I think that's so key, and making sure that one of the things that really was important to me in the time that I served was having that support network, because you're not always around family. So building that support network around you with those that have those same things in common are key.
Definitely. Anissa, let's slide over to you.
As I stated before, it's just making sure that our military children have a voice, that they are important, that we do focus on the spouse, but just making sure that we do turn our attention to our young people.
Absolutely. Tammy?
It's going to take the entire community working together to provide that safety net to make sure that our kids have the best available resources.
It takes a village.
It does take a village.
And I would just say, I think it's really important for members of the community to really know who in their neighborhood is serving, and reach out to them and offer support. And from what I understand, I hear from military spouses in particular, it's something practical. It's not, oh, I know they're a military family and I'll bring them a casserole. It's like maybe I can take their children to dance lessons because my husband's gone and I don't have time. It's really providing some practical solutions to some of their challenges. And there are great organizations that are out there doing that, like snow removal and things like that, when you're home alone and you have a baby inside, you can't get out and shovel that walk.
Oh, that's a great point. That is such a great point. And it brings the community together. Get to know your neighbor and help your neighbor. I mean, that's what we need to do. We are community. We are community. Thank you, ladies, for such a fantastic and important discussion. You have given us some great information to help change the world and make it a better place. That's what it's all about. Thank you all for being with us once again and helping us to really learn and understand more about this topic, our children. Well, there you have it. We hope that you too have enjoyed this stimulating conversation about military children and have heard something that inspires you to keep this dialogue going and take action. To learn more about this program or others in our series, please go to our website, www.whut.org. I am Molette Green, and we will see you next time on Vocal Point, right here on WHUT TV.